Hi, this is Keshav of CSC Data Science, and today our topic was high tech, high sec security concerns in graph databases. In the beginning of the graph theory, took place in 1736 in an article by Leon Euler. The work arose from the problem known as the cohesion bridge problem. The problem was to go through all the bridges at once and go back to the same starting point. Euler provided that it was not possible to do this. It replaced each starting zone by a point and each bridge by an arc, thus creating a first graph designed to solve a problem. This case gave rise to graph theory. Nowadays, the current technology has allowed to take these principles to new type of database, in this case oriented to graphs. The information is stored as nodes or entities and relationships between to obtain the additional information of the great value. Although it is true that this technology is relatively recent, the most significant technological milestones start from 2013. However, there are already certain databases that can be used in real systems with success. The most famous graph database by its evolution and community. This is Neo4j, followed by far by OrionDB. Up to our knowledge, scientific literature did not report yet any research about the specific topics covered in this paper. For this reason, in the following sections, the security of the most important graph databases will be deepened. Case studies: Neo4j and OrionDB. Orion database. Neo4j is a graph-oriented database and free software implemented in Java. This database stores the information natively in nodes and relations instead of tables. Among its features, it has the possibility of adding several tags to the nodes and a unique one to the relations. Besides being able to add properties or indexes, the biggest feature of this database is its query language, Cipher. Cipher is a declarative language to describe patterns in graphs visually, using ASCII art syntax. It allows to indicate what one wants to consult, to insert, to update, or to clear the data in the graph without the necessity to describe it with precision. To select the nodes and parentheses are used because of the similarity to circles. For example, a node B would be represented as P. In addition, you can add a series of tags that facilitate the search of nodes, as it can be within each node. A property can be accessed by using the dot, for example p.name. All of these values are case sensitive. Therefore, the general structure of a query can be seen as follows. It is advisable to consult the technical manual of the database to understand in detail. This is a query language, Cipher, and Orient database, OrientDB 2017, is a non-relational open source database management system written in Java. This system supports documents, key value, and object models, but relations managed as in graph-oriented databases with direct connections between each other. Security in Neo4j, strengths and limitations. In 2013, Neo4j presents the first version 1.9 with serious design flaws, including the possibility of executing remote code CVE Neo4j using a public exploit CVE 2013-7259. At the end of that year appeared the first version 2.0, where the visual section began to have more importance. It was solved the problem of the remote code execution and was added possibility of having HTTPS. Until 2016, it was not evolved to the new versions. in April 2016, in Graph Connect version 3.0 was introduced, adding a multitude of functionalities, new connection protocols, and web administration panel appeared. The last point introduces the possibility of an attacker, by using fingerprinting techniques, know the version of Neo4j database without having to be authenticated in it. If the panel exists, the version of the database will be less than 3.0, and if not higher. At the end of 2016 appeared the new version 3.1 with the great novelty of the implementation of user management. The configuration and design of each of these versions can be used by an attacker to try to access a database without credentials in it, to be able to insert, steal, manipulate, or delete information, as will be shown below. The default configuration and version management of this graph database is vital from the attacker point of view. Therefore, the configuration of path files is adjusted depending upon the versions 2.x. In case configuration information is located in the following path, within which the configuration settings to be detailed. This line configures which the addresses can access the service running Neo4j. The reader can observe that default is commented out and only local user can connect it. On the contrary, removing the comment would mean that if you expose your and accessible from the internet, that service would exploit any user would have any visibility of Neo4j details. Also, it is possible to disable the login password authentications in users access. It's defaultly enabled. It is not recommended in any case, but in some connectors to the database, it is recommended because there is no implementation of the authentication processes. GVMO security auth enabled. The default port for the remote connection is port 7474 or 7473. There is a possibility of changing this port to the less exposure to the sophisticated attackers. Obviously, it is not sophisticated protection measure. In some versions of the Windows operating system, it is only possible to connect via HTTP, appearing the HTTPS line commented. Neo4j implements a remote shell on default port 1337. This configuration is for the remote shell to the database to be able to query it by the cipher. This shell presents security problems because the user connect without authentication. Luckily, it is not enabled by the default and it is only possible to access through the computer itself. It is important to monitor the change of this configuration. Unlike the previous versions of the configuration of these commenters, within the same file with the same parameters and the previous version, if there is a following path. Security in Orient database strengths and limitations. The configuration information is stored in the installation folder path orientdb config, where the following files are located: orientdb server config xml. In this file are the necessary parameters to establish the connection and the users of the server orientdb with the summaries of of their passwords. This configuration is by default and unlike Neo4j, allowing the connection from any source IP to the OrientDB server, exposing it to the internet. The strange thing is that due to the documentation indices to the opposite, it is significant in addition to how to work to the user by making it vulnerable against the brute force attacks, especially possible to remotely connect to the root account. This file shows the security settings of the OrientDB server. Changes can be made to improve security. Highlight that three default users that are gated for access to any database. The users created by the default are admin. Similarly, the default database named Grateful Dead Concepts is created. User authentication design failures. Initially, when the server is started, it asks to assign the password for the user root, which will have the full access to the all databases and the management portal. If one if the passport is left blank, the random is created. The authentication is based on the HTTP basic as a Neo4j in case your credentials for the each database that is inside the server. Exhibition of the private information, data leaks, and the internet. In order to verify the impact of some of the security problems detected among the most spread graph databases, a verification process was required. With the purpose, a specific fingerprinting tool called GraphScan was designed. Using this tool, different active attacks were implemented and internet was wanted from May 2016 until January 2017. The tool uses IP address of the interest obtained from each search engine, Shodan, and scanning tools such as ZMap or Maps. These scanning tools have the capability of scanning the whole internet within few minutes. If further information is required, we strongly recommend that reading the user guide included with the tool. In case Neo4j more than 1275 databases are found, 298 without any authentication. In a graph databases without authentication, all the privileges could be used for the implementation of the different types of attacks. For example, a denial of the service for both Neo4j and a whole machine containing it. This problem was even more significant and when machine itself offered a through port 80 and most of the cases cooperative webs. This information makes such easier choosing an optimal type of attack. For example, in certain cases could be used as a public exploit to obtain the full control over the machine. Relevant fact was the 5:1 ratio between the community and enterprise licenses. It important to keep in mind that this fact does have security implications because the community license does not have active neither logs nor monitor of the cipher query. Besides, it appears the default database 104 times that could allow the introduction of the queries, provokes DOS attacks, and any other kind of misuse of the data, illegal information, cover channel, etc. Conclusion: graph databases are insufficient technology, nevertheless, they are having an increasing impact on companies and management of the diverse information, especially in context of cybersecurity. Hence, seeking to minimize these possible attacks in future as a consequence of misuse of these technologies. During this research, configuration and security components are implemented within the database are investigated. Regarding Neo4j and most spread database, bad configuration habits of the database are observed, making them vulnerable on the internet. In this sense, the decision of the not implementing key security features such as logs monitor or monitor community version is not the best approach. Thank you.